Hey, hello everyone, and welcome to the webinar and the starting class for the Zero to CCNA. So this series that we have created is called the Challenge Series because this course will actually naturally progress to CCNP and then CCIE later. So of course, if you want to join just for CCNA, that is also fine. But if your plan is to go all the way up to CCIE, this will be the perfect pathway to the CCIE, as the name suggests, right? So in this particular today's session, I'm going to explain you exactly what is going to be covered in this course, how it is structured, and also how can it help you to pass your exams or get that promotion that you're looking for or get a better job opportunities after completing this course, right? And how you can actually approach that pathway. So any questions you have during the session, you can actually schedule a Zoom meeting with my partner Christian, and he can answer you all the questions. So in today's session, it is just the presentation of what exactly is going to be covered in the course, and after that, any questions can be answered on the Zoom meeting. So I've already pasted the link how you can communicate with Christian, and definitely you should do that once the session is over, right? So you can actually decide what time you want to talk, but that can help you a lot. All right, so let's go ahead and understand what exactly do we have in this courseware. So this is a complete program, you will see, and the reason is because we start with zero to CCNA, and this one is going to be 12 weeks. So many times you must have seen that CCNA programs are bootcamp style where they are like 5 days or maximum 7 days programs where they go 8 hours every day and cover all the topics. And although that's a good style to save time, but it doesn't give you much room to practice, to understand the concepts, or to have the hands-on experience. So, for example, if you are completely new to networking, or if you are in the networking technology for a long time but not working with Cisco products uh, specifically, it becomes quite challenging to understand the topics and then also do the enough practical experience to become comfortable with the topics. So it becomes a little bit difficult to follow that path within 5 days or 7 days. So we understood that and we thought, okay, CCNA is a theoretical exam. It's a multiple choice question exam with few simulations, like maybe there could be 2 or 3 practical questions as well. But we wanted to make sure that we cover every topic which can be configured. So there are pure theoretical topics as well, like subnetting or programmability introduction. But there are many practical topics as well, like OSPF, EIGRP, BGP, basics of BGP, access control list, network address translation. So all these things, if we can actually space it out, and we give you enough room to not only understand the concept in depth, then you see me also completing the configuration, explaining you how exactly that configuration is done, and then you also do the same configuration, and you get the whole week to complete that topic or couple of topics that we will cover in a week. So that way, every week you will learn few topics in depth. You will see me configuring them on the devices, routers, and switches, and explaining exactly what I'm configuring. And then you will follow with the same lab. So you will be doing the same lab on your own, so that you become comfortable with the topic, right? That's why we created this a 12 weeks program, and every week we will cover 2 different topics. So total 24 topics will be covered. Now remember, these 24 topics are not the complete CCNA. These are the hands-on topics where you can actually do some configuration, and these are the core topics of CCNA. So if you are familiar and comfortable with these topics, you can call yourself a CCNA expert. And then there are topics like some of the theoretical topics that you need to do on your own. And on your own, by what I mean is that we have pre-recorded sessions for that. So you just need to watch the recording, make sure you make some notes, and be ready for the exam. So for example, programmability, they don't have any labs into CCNA exam. They might have labs in CCI level for programmability or even CCNP level, but CCNA, they just introduce programmability. Same thing goes for wireless. So you should be aware of the technology, how wireless work, but there will be no lab into the CCNA exam. So these topics, you will see that we have the pre-recorded sessions which you can go through after the practical series will be done. But I will explain you exactly what we are going to cover practically and what are the topics that you just need to be aware theoretically, right? After that, we move to second part, which is zero to CCNP. And zero to CCNP has two different certifications, NRC and NCORE. Actually, NCORE is the core certification that you need to do. And second one is called the concentration exam. So the concentration exam, you have many options. One of the option is routing and switching, and that is called NRC. So this is going to be 12 weeks. And we start with NRC because you are just coming from zero to CCNA. So you are already very familiar and you have done a lots of hands-on the routing and switching part of it, right? You have done configuration of static routing, dynamic routing, OSPF configuration, BGP configuration, and you have also done a lot of switching practicals as well. So NRC is the natural progression after zero to CCNA. And after NRC is 12 weeks, the second part of CCNP is NCORE exam. Now, NCORE exam is the second into the list, although it is the core exam, but we are going with the concentration exam first. Another reason for this is the first reason, as I told you earlier, that it is the natural progression to go from routing switching part of CCNA to routing switching part of CCNP, right? But another reason why we do Encore second is because this includes the newer technologies like SD-WAN, SDA, programmability, and some of the basic switching is also covered here. So when you are dealing with the new technologies which were not covered in CCNA or which were not there in CCNA, it becomes actually easier to first do what is already familiar, like routing switching, and then moving to the Encore. And Encore is also not only it's a CCNP requirement, but this certification is also the prerequisite to go for CCI. So earlier, what used to happen if you want to attempt the CCI lab, you had to do a CCI qual exam, CCI qualification exam, which used to be a written exam and a separate exam. But now they have integrated this into CCNP. So if you are going through your CCNP journey, you want to get your CCNP certification and you pass the NCORE exam, you are already eligible now to book the CCI lab as well. So this also works as a qual exam for CCI. And they have removed the dependencies on these certifications. Interdependencies of these certifications means if you are good enough in CCNA, so knowledge is absolutely important. That's why they have this hierarchy: associate, professional, and expert. So knowledge is at most important. But let's say if you opt not to attempt the CCNA exam and you directly go for CCNP exam, now it is possible. You don't need to have a CCNA certification to pass and get your CCNP certification. You can directly do the NRC and NCORE. And same thing applies for CCI. You don't need CCNA and CCNP. All you need is the CCNP NCORE because you do need that as a prerequisite to be able to book the CCI exam. And then you can go for CCI, which is going to be the last part of this challenge series, where we will have 24 weeks of in-depth CCI configuration and CCI topics preparation, where we will have different single protocol labs and followed by multi-protocol labs. And this includes the SD-WAN, SDA, programmability, Python, and all the configuration labs as well. So you can see that this is a big program if you are going to follow the complete program. But if you are here only for CCNA, that is also perfectly fine because this is modular enough to choose where do you want to start. And CCNA itself is also a complete program. So let's talk about zero to CCNA first. What exactly are we going to cover and how this course is structured for this part, right? And as I mentioned earlier as well, at any point of time, if you have any questions, you should note down and you should schedule a meeting with Krishna. So in case if anybody joined late, I have pasted the link again to book a call with Christian and clear all your doubts that you might have, right? All right. So coming back to the topic, what exactly is unique about this course and then what is the structure of this course? So you'll see that these are the core strengths that you will see, which makes us better than other uh, courses that you will find online. There are some courses where you just get the pre-recorded videos, so there is no support. And then there are courses like boot camps, as I mentioned earlier, where everything goes very fast and you don't get the breathing space to absorb the concepts and practice it yourself and become comfortable before moving to the next concept, right? So in our case, we will have live Zoom sessions with me. to cover in-depth concepts in the simplest way possible. So one of our strengths is to make sure that we understand the importance of theory. Of course, the course is completely hands-on, and our emphasis is on hands-on. But remember, if you want to practice OSPF or if you want to practice a spanning tree protocol, it will not help you if you don't understand the concept. Why are you doing something that you are doing? It will be very easy for me to just tell you the commands that you need to remember and practice them on the Cisco switches for spanning tree or routers or for OSPF, and be done with it. But it is not going to help you in cracking the interviews, or it will not be able to help you if you get a slightly different question in the exam or in your job, day-to-day job as well. So it's very important to understand how STP works and how OSPF work, how access control list work, how network address translation work, how network time protocol works. So there are so many different things that we are going to cover. So we will always start with the in-depth concepts. And I always explain things in three different minutes or three different parts. First of all, we start with why. Why do we need this technology? And then what is this technology? And then finally, how do we actually configure it? So, sorry, what, why, and how. So, of course, first of all, if you are hearing about something first time, let's assume that you never know, you have never heard about BGP. And you say, what is BGP? So, what is the first question comes? And then once I tell you BGP is a protocol which is used between different organizations to exchange routes, then of course the second question will come to mind is why do we need this? And how it is different from internal protocols like OSPF, EIGRP, and RIP. And then the final thing is that, okay, now I understand why do we need this? So how do we configure it? So when you go through these three questions, what, why, and how, it becomes very easy to follow the configuration. And of course, this is a hands-on specific course. So we will have labs for every topic that we are going to cover. But before that, we will make sure that you are comfortable with the technology that we are covering here, right? Hmm. And of course, as I mentioned, after the in-depth concepts, you want to see the labs. So the practice labs for every topic to not only solidify your understanding of the topic, but also to become comfortable with the command line interface of Cisco iOS Internet of Operating System. So you will practice so much every week, week by week, you will be practicing different topics, but you will be using the same operating system. So you will be using the same operating system every time. And that's why your basic understanding of that CLI structure and the basic understanding of the overall environment of Cisco will also become very, very useful for you. And this is the interesting part. The practice labs that we are going to do, I'm not going to just send them the practice lab. After explaining you a particular concept, let's say we are talking about static routing or what is exactly routing. After explaining you everything in depth, I am going to do the lab in the Zoom session in front of you. So it will be done by me step by step, explaining you everything what I'm doing. So I will not be quiet and just typing the commands. I will be explaining everything that I will be doing. So you just understood the concept, in-depth concept, and now you are seeing the practical implementation with the explanation. So that completes the curve for you, right? And then the same labs will be sent to you so that you can practice that as well. And I will send you the labs along with the solutions, a solution file, because remember, it is not a test. So I'm not testing you that do you remember everything from the Zoom session? You don't need to test yourself. As a matter of fact, recordings will be available. You can watch them as many times as you want. You can check the solution file as many times as you want, because the idea is uh, to understand and imbibe all the concepts and understand and imbibe the configuration, right? So for that, you should have the mindset of learning, not the mindset of testing yourself until this course is over. So you should just be learning every time. Something you don't know, immediately look up, check the recordings, ask me any questions, and get make sure that you get your complete understanding, right? Yeah. So there will be Q&A sections also to clear and out. So in every Zoom session, after the theory and the practical part is complete, so I will explain you something, then I will do the lab in front of you, and you might have some questions. So we'll open a Q&A session after that, where you will be able to ask me any questions you have for the current sessions, or maybe you have some questions from the previous session. So you will be able to ask those questions right into the Zoom session, or maybe during the week when we don't have the live Zoom session, You can also ask us on many different methods. Like, for example, we have a Facebook group where we have the current and the previous students there. So it's a very live community. You can ask questions there. I will be answering there, as well as other students can also chip in. So it's actually a great way to communicate. Or when you watch the recordings of the Zoom sessions again, the recordings will also have a comment section in the below. So while watching the recording again and you find something that you wanted to ask something about, you can immediately ask into the comment section, and that question will come to me, and I will be more than happy to answer there, right? So you have many ways to ask questions. And this is also a big thing which is missing from many of the online courses that you have, because they have the recorded sessions and then you are on your own, or maybe you will have to send them an email and might expect a reply uh, in some days, right? But in our case, we will have the live Q&A sessions, and then you will have different portals to ask me questions where I'll be answering you. So you have the complete support as well, right? And as I mentioned, detailed solution files for the practice lab will be given to you. So don't test yourself. Again, I'm emphasizing this. I can't emphasize this enough, that when you are doing this course, just have the mindset of learning, not the mindset of testing yourself. You will get ample time in the test itself to test yourself, right? So don't do that into the course. Just learn. And if you get stuck somewhere, that's a good thing, because if you get stuck means you don't remember something, and that's a good point to learn it and make sure you remember it, right? That's how you will know where you are missing information, and that's why we have the solution files, right? Okay. And here is the most important part: all the necessary software for practice labs will be given by us with pre-set up topologies. Now here is where many people actually get demotivated when they are going for their certification journey. If they are doing it on their own, first of all, they need to know how many routers and switches would I need. And then if they go with the hardware path, means okay, I will purchase the routers and switches, and then I'll create my own rack in my home. So you will have to know how many routers would be needed, which series routers would be good for all the questions in CCNA exam, which series of switch will be enough, and how would I connect them, what topology will I use, will one topology will be enough for everything. And after that, how I will have to make sure that I have ordered proper compatible cables and all. So hardware has its own issues, right? And then second, if you think, okay, there are many simulations and emulation softwares available where I can use virtualized routers and switches to connect to each other and use them. So yes, that's actually a better way, to be honest, because in CCNA, they don't expect you to be a hardware specialist. They want to make sure that once you get the CLI, are you capable enough of doing all the tasks, configuring switching and configuring routing or not, right? So we are also using emulation software called EVNG. But the benefit that you get with us is that although EVNG is a free software, you can actually download it and use it on your own. But it's just a front end, right? It's just an emulating software. That means it gives you a structure, a format, and you need to find your own operating system images for Cisco switches and routers on your own. You need to copy them into this EVNG software. It is actually a Linux operating system. You need to copy them into the Linux operating system, and then you need to license them before you can start using the routers and switches. Once you license them, then you will open the GUI of EVNG, and then you will have to start creating the topologies. And then what topologies will be best to cover all the topics, and how do I connect them? There is a learning curve as well, right? So we wanted to make sure that we remove all the complexities from your side, and so that you can concentrate on the topics directly, like routing and switching. You want to start practicing from day one when you join this course, right? Start hands-on from day one. Okay. So this is another benefit you get in our course, is that we have created a package file. We call it OVA file. All you need is the VMware workstation. So if you're using Windows operating system, and we do recommend Windows for this, is that you just download and install the VMware workstation player, which is a free software, and then you can just import this OVA file that we will send you. The moment you import that OVA file, you will get EVNG, the Linux operating system that you will use for emulating all the routers and switches topologies. And you will see that all the necessary routing and switching images, the Cisco routers images and switches images, are already installed or copied into the Linux. It is already licensed. And also, when you open the GUI of UNG, you will see that we already have pre-set up topologies. So you can directly boot the routers and switches and start configuring within a minute. So you see that all the complexities or the unnecessary searching on the internet and trial and error is removed. I'm not saying it's not possible. You can definitely do that. But why to waste time in that when you can directly concentrate the time in passing your CCNA exam or understanding the concepts, right? So that's why all the necessary softwares are also provided by us. And for if you go all the way up to CCIE, and which will be a great thing if you go for the CCIE level as well, we call it the program 0 to lab, and we will have multi-protocol labs for that lab as well. So we have the multi-protocol labs not only for routing and switching, all the core technologies that we have in CCIE, like switching, routing, IP version 6, quality of service, MPLS, multicasting, DMVPN, and all the IP services like NET, NTP, IPSLA, everything is there. But then we also have software-defined networking, where we have the LAN side solution called SDA, software-defined access, and WAN side solution SD-WAN. And then we have the programmability labs as well, where you learn how you can actually use programmability or and automation to use network protocols like RESTconf, NetConf, and create the Python scripts to automate uh, uh, some of the tasks like fetching the configuration of a router or switch, or changing something on the router or switch, like shutting down a port from a remote location by just sending a code to the device. And we can also run the complete Linux operating system on the router itself. So router itself contains a small Linux operating system, and there we can actually run Python inside that operating system to interact with the router. That is called Python in a box. So we are going to learn that as well. So there are many technologies which are covered, and multi-protocol lab for the CCI exam is also covered there. Right? It's a very exciting course. And of course, not to forget, lifetime access to the session recordings. That means any session that we are going to go through, you will see that one of the existing class or maybe the previous CCNA class recording you will find on the portal. And the topic will be same. For example, if I'm covering OSPF, the recording will cover all the important things that we have covered either in the existing class or one of the previous classes. But you will get the lifetime access. And the benefit of this is that if there is a change into CCNA exam, and there are some new topics added or old topics removed, we are going to update our curriculum according to that. And because you will have lifetime access, you will get the new information as well. Like, for example, we do have some students from 2018, 2019 as well, who bought CCN at that time. And of course, that time there was a older CCNA, the newer CCNA came in 2019 and 2020. So when we introduced new topics in CCNA and uploaded to the portal, they got the access immediately to all the new topics as well. And they will keep on getting access because it's the lifetime access for the session recordings, right? So that's the unique part of this course, which makes it better than other courses you will see on the internet. But let's talk about the course structure now that we have in Zero to CCNA Challenge, right? So first thing first is that this is going to be 2 times per week. So the live Zoom sessions, we will have 2 sessions every week. And in these 2 sessions, we will be covering 2 different technologies. So one day, we will cover one technology along with the practical lab for that. And second day, another technology along with the practical lab for that. So you will have the whole week to do these 2 labs, watch the recordings again, make sure you become comfortable with these particular 2 technologies. So we are going to cover 2 technologies every week, which are practical technologies, not just theory only, where we can do something on the routers and switches, right? So the session will be 1.5 to 2 hours per session, depending on the topic. So it's not the time-driven sessions; these are content-driven sessions. Means it depends on what exactly are we covering that day. Sometimes you will see that the topic is small, will be done within 1.5 hour, including the lab. Sometimes we might go even more than 2 hours, depending on what topic are we covering, right? So it's not time-driven; it is topic-driven. But roughly, you can understand that it will be 1.5 to 2 hour session, including the theory and the practical that I will do, right? You don't need to do the lab right into this Zoom session. I will send you the lab after the session, and then you will have the whole week to do the lab, where you will see you will have the solution file, recording, and the support. So you will have everything that you need. including the OVA, EVNG, so that you have every tool to start practicing, right? So this is something we already discussed, that there will be live Zoom sessions with me, explaining concepts and showing lab configuration. So this is a 12 weeks course. That means we will have 24 different topics that we will cover. We are going to make sure that we cover in-depth theory and multiple practical labs. And labs PDF will be sent after the session along with the solution file. So this is something that you will expect after the class is finished. Then I will send you on your email the lab PDF. Also, if you go to the website, our Zero to CCNA website, and you will have access to your complete pre-recorded library, right, for that week. Like every week, we will open code videos for you, which is for the next topics. So if you go to that library and you open the recording for the topic that we covered that day, there also you will be able to download the lab file from there. So you have two options. One, I will send you the lab directly into the email. But in case if you somehow missed it on the email, you can definitely ask me again, or you can download from the portal as well, right? And this is a completely hands-on approach where we use the EVNG software, right? EVNG based topologies with multiple routers and switches. So that brings us to the this software. What exactly is EVNG? So EVNG, as I told you, it's an emulation software. So what is the difference between simulation and emulation software? Simulation softwares actually don't have the real operating system. They just have a software which behaves like the real operating system, but it's not 100% same as the real operating system. Some of the commands will be supported, some might not be supported. Emulator, on the other hand, as EVNG is the emulator, it actually uses the real image of a Cisco router or a Cisco switch, and it is just the front end for that Cisco router or router or switch image. So it is actually virtualizing just the hardware, but the software is exactly the same that you get in the real Cisco router switch, right? So you will see that we use EVNG on VMware. So you should have VMware workstation or workstation player. But the topologies are already set in EVNG, and I have created a package file which is called OVA file that will be sent to you in the first week. You just need to import it in the VMware. So there's a typo here. It should be imported in VMware, and you are good to go actually. And the recommended RAM for this machine that you are going to use for CCNA would be 8 gig. So I'm not saying that you need to assign 8 gig to the OVA. I'm saying that your laptop or desktop overall should have 8 gigabit RAM. And that will be actually more than sufficient to do all your CCNA labs. To be honest, even if you have 4 gig RAM, it can work. It might be slightly slower in that case, but it's still doable as long as CCNA is concerned. But if you are planning to go for CCNP and later to CCIE, definitely minimum requirement is going to be 8 gig. Even for CCIE, I would say 16 gig will be better. And once you have the OVA that I will send you when you join the regular class, then this OVA can be used to start using labs. But before you do that, once you import the OVA, there are a few things you should do. For example, adjust the memory of the virtual machine to whatever requirement you have. Because as I told you, recommended is 8 gig. So if your system has 8 gig RAM, then you can change the allocated RAM to the VM to 6 gig. And don't worry, it's not going to use all the 6 gig at a time. It actually starts gradually using more and more RAM when you start more and more routers and switches. And EVNG is highly efficient because it works over Linux operating system. So it's not going to use too much RAM. But still, make sure you adjust the RAM according to your requirement, as you can see on the right hand side. And you can also set the network adapter to NAT, so that you always have proper IP addressing configured and you can access the EVNG GUI. Because remember, all the practical we will do for the next 24 weeks, they are all going to be on EVNG, and you access the EVNG using the graphical user interface from a web browser. You need to know the IP address which is assigned to EVNG so that you can open that IP into the web browser. And if you set the network adapter to NAT, then it is more likely that you will get an IP address properly instead of using the bridge or any other options here, right? So these two things are recommended settings. So just to show you, For example, if I go to the VMware, you can see that once you import the OVA that I will send you and you boot it, you will get something like this. So as you can see that it is showing you the name EVNG, default root password is the EU, and then it is showing you an IP address. Use HTTP 192.168.79.130. In your case, it could be a different IP, but you will see an IP address here. And this IP you need to open into the browser. So remember, this is the Linux operating system here for EVNG, right? So you can definitely log in here with the username and password, root and eve. So password is EVE. Or in case of CCNA, I think we have changed the password to Karothul, which is the name of our organization. I will send you the username password detail. But what I mean to say is that you don't need to do this. Once you boot this EVNG and you see the IP address here, you can directly open this into the browser. You don't need to log in into the root here, right? So you notice the IP here, and then you go to the browser. So let's go to the browser and then show you. Like I open this IP 1.130, and you will see something like this. When you open even the first time, you will see a browser window, and you will see a username password prompt. The username is admin, password is EU. You sign in, and here you will actually get something like this, a list of topologies that I already created. These are the pre-built topologies for our CCNA course, depending on what we will be doing, OSPF routing or DHCP, BGP, or general purpose. So like if I go to a general lab of 0 to CCNA, you can see that we can use multiple routers and switches. We have 3 different branches, branch 1, branch 2, branch 3, connected through internet, and we can actually perform many things. If you have to purchase your own rack with the 8 computers and 7 routers and 6 switches, it will be very expensive, and connecting them all will be a hassle. So it's actually a very great thing to have a software like EVNG, right? So don't worry, if you join the course, you will also get a video in the very first week where I'll explain you exactly how EVNG can be set up if you have the OVA, what exactly do you need to do in a video, and how do you start the routers, configure the routers, how to access them, how to save the configuration, everything will be there into that EVNG introduction video, right? So that can actually cover that out. So the next part I think is for the top number of CCNA topics that we will cover. So this is something that you will see. It can change also if there is a change into CCNA. But just to give you a basic idea, like what are the practical topics that we are going to cover? We'll start with the basics of networking. IPv4 addressing and subnetting is very important. VLANs, VTP, Ether channel, and STP. These are the switching topics. So on the layer 2 level, we are going to cover all these core topics. And then of course comes the routing part, layer 3. So router basic configuration and how do you access the router using secure shell or telnet. Static and default routing, and OSPF. So earlier they used to have routing information protocol and EIGRP as well in CCNA. Now they have removed that requirement, but we do have the pre-recorded videos for RIP and EIGRP. So if you're still interested, you can watch them. But in the live Zoom sections, we will cover only static and default routing and OSPF. But don't worry, you do have EIGRP in recordings, and also when you go for CCNP, you again have EIGRP there. IPv6 addressing, IP services. So IP services are the services that you configure after your routing and switching infrastructure is already set up, right? So you will see that that setup. That means your routing is already there, switching is already there, you have reachability. Then you can configure tunneling, you can configure network address translation to have internet reachability, network time protocol to have time synchronization between devices, DNS DHCP for name resolution and IP configuration on the clients, quality of service, monitoring your network with SNMP, or copying files using TFTP or file transfer protocol, FTP. So all these IP services we are going to cover as well. Security features, access control list, one of the big topics in exam, as well as layer 2 security features are also there. And then there are some topics which are completely theoretical. So you will get the pre-recorded sessions on the portal for these once we complete the practical topics like wireless basics, virtualization basics, and automation and programmability. So these all are topics in the CCNA exam, but not simulations. We will not get a lab for these topics, right? So that's it. That completes our webinar for today. I just wanted to make sure you understand the structure and exactly how you can reach to the how you can actually understand the CCNA exam as well. So if you have any questions, as I mentioned earlier, please feel free to contact Christian, and he will be more than happy to answer your questions. So thanks a lot, guys, and hopefully to see you into the class. And by the way, one thing I want to mention is that some of you already have joined the course. So Christian might have told you about the the course is starting on Monday and Tuesday, so he might have actually misspoken because there are so many classes going on. Uh, Actually, the classes will be held on Friday and Saturday, 7 p.m. Eastern time. So Friday and Saturday, 7 p.m. Eastern time. That will be the time. That will be the class timing from next week, right? So if you haven't joined it, you should definitely book a call with Christian. If you have already joined it, then those will be the timing. And of course, I'm going to send people who have already joined. I'm going to send a proper invite with the time detail information there as well within couple of days, right? So thanks a lot, guys, and hopefully to see you into the class. And just make sure that you do book a call with Christian in case if you have any questions. Bye bye. Have a good day or good night.